All right, hi everyone who's joined us. This is the basics of online teaching. Welcome. My name is Emily Ravenwood. I am one of the Learning and Teaching Technology Consultants for LSA. We are part of Technology Services, and we are hopefully going to be covering some basics that you've probably been wondering about how to put your classes online. In particular, today's session is going to cover how to decide on the right tools to use while you are teaching online, the essentials of video conferencing, and the essentials of Canvas. Now, this is going to be a very high-level overview, mostly touching on the considerations of how do you actually decide on what to use and where do you find it. There will be more detailed workshops for a lot of this material later on. So, if there's anything that we don't cover today, please don't worry too much about that. If anyone has any questions, please add them to the session chat. At the breaks between each section, I will be trying to answer whatever I can. If there are questions that we can't get to, don't worry about that. That will be collected, and we will try to contact you later if there's anything that we can't get to right today. All right, so let's get started. The first thing that you really want to consider in terms of teaching online, especially if you're not familiar with it yet, is choosing the right tools. And that will depend very much on what kind of class you teach. For example, if you are teaching a large lecture, then recording the lecture and posting the recording to a Canvas discussion for Q&A might be the best option, or even to stream and record your lecture to all of your students via Bluejeans events, which in fact is what we are using now. If you have a discussion-based class, you might want to start with a Canvas discussion for the whole class and then break out smaller groups into a live video conference or spin them off into the group workspace in Canvas. If you have an activity-heavy course, you will definitely want to look into Canvas assignments and the various uses that you can make of that. And if you have a course with a lot of group work in it, then you'll want to look at Canvas groups. And those do provide an online workspace for each student group that you create within Canvas. So those can be very powerful in terms of sustaining that collaboration from the in-person to the online. Some important considerations that you will want to keep in mind are that you make your lecture or discussions or activities available for later study in some form for the students who may need to be absent for a time, especially in the current circumstances. You will also want to set expectations up front about when and how often you will be available online. Don't try to be available all the time. That will just burn you out. Think about when can you be available to deal with the discussion, to answer email, to answer questions in chat, however it is that you decide to be available to your students, and communicate clearly to them when those hours are going to be. Online office hours are a good opportunity for this. We'll touch on that later also. You will also want to really think about the core learning goals for your current courses and look for a way to let students achieve those online. It may very well not look the same as it would face-to-face, and that's okay. If we have to make some changes in this circumstance, everyone will manage that. So this is a good time to take a breath, think about what are the really vital things for your students to know and be able to demonstrate, and how might they be able to demonstrate their knowledge to you in an online form? Is that going to be online assignments? Is it going to be online discussions? Is it going to be presentations that they record? Is it going to be live presentations that they give through something like Canvas conferences? Just think about those, identify them, and then you'll be really well placed to decide what tools to use. Last thing I want to touch on here. If you have any students who have self-identified to you as students who need accommodations, that can present some challenges, yes. Feel free to reach out to LTC. Contact information will be on the last slide, and we will help you think through that. The Office of Services for Students with Disabilities is also available to you, and they are also prepared to help you think through how to make this work. So you do have support for that kind of situation. All right. Are there any questions so far from the chat?
Not.
Then let's get started with the essentials of video conferencing. We have licenses for 3 video conferencing tools that are free to all U of M faculty, students, and staff. The first one that I want to talk about is Canvas Conferences. This is built into Canvas. So it's an integrated tool. It talks to your Canvas roster. This can be a very useful thing for when you want to, say, use a video conference for the discussion sections of a large lecture. Canvas Conferences is also best for small to medium class sizes. The practical limit is about 100 people in a conference. I wouldn't necessarily recommend putting that many people in a conference at the same time in Canvas Conferences, even though that's officially the limit. Maybe look for 50 to 75. All right. We also do recommend use of Canvas Conferences for office hours. Again, because it's integrated with Canvas, it's easy for students to just go to the Canvas course site, find the link to your online office hours there if you're using video conferencing for that. Okay. The next one I want to touch on is Bluejeans Meeting. This is the one that anybody who's used Bluejeans is probably familiar with. This is very similar to conferences, except that it's a standalone tool. Bluejeans is really best for face-to-face meetings, where conferences tends to focus on content, on presentation materials. If you are already familiar with Bluejeans, that is also a very good reason to use it. If you're comfortable with it, use what you're comfortable with, absolutely. Like conferences, Bluejeans is best for medium to small groups. The official limit is 150 students. Again, I would not necessarily want to get up to that, but 50 to 75, probably reasonable to manage. This would also be a good one for office hours because Bluejeans gives you a single stable personal link. So if you wanted to primarily use Bluejeans only for your office hours, you could use that one link, put it in Canvas, tell people when you're going to be online, and they would always go to the same place. So again, depends on what you're comfortable with and what you want to do. The third is Bluejeans Event, and that is what we are in right now. Again, this is the tool that is optimized for large events. So if you're teaching a 200-person, 300-person, 500-person lecture, Bluejeans Events would be what you want if you want to do any streaming online. As you can see from the interface that you're dealing with right now, this does have a couple ways for viewers to participate, but it is much more limited than the smaller group tools. So think about how you want to do this. Contact LTC and we will be happy to help you out. One thing that I really want to emphasize if you're using Bluejeans is that you need to go to the URL you see on the presentation slide here, umish.bluejeans.com, okay? umish.bluejeans.com, not just bluejeans.com. This is what will get you the single sign-on, the free version with all the bells and whistles.
There is a question. The question is, Bluejeans allows you to break students into small groups during the conference. Can Canvas Conferences do that? And are there particular benefits of one over the other?
Excellent question. Yes, both Bluejeans Meeting and Canvas Conferences support what are called breakout rooms. And those are the way that you can divide students into multiple kind of spin-off conferences that they can go to outside the main meeting, talk in, eventually come back to the main meeting. I would say that if you're comfortable with that, that's an excellent option for managing large groups and breaking them up for smaller, more manageable discussions. And if you are the moderator within the meeting, which of course if you create it, you will be, then you can visit those groups and jump between them. That is something that if you're interested in pursuing that, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to LTC and we will be happy to talk through how to manage that with you. Because if you're not familiar with it, that can be a little overwhelming at first, but the tools for that are built into both meetings and conferences. Yes, absolutely. Now, some things to remember no matter what tool you're using. Make the links available in an obvious place in Canvas. For example, your modules. And when we get to the Canvas section, I'll be showing you about modules. You might also want to consider emailing it to your students in addition to putting it in your modules, just to make sure if you're doing anything with live video conferencing, make sure they have that URL and that they don't lose it, which, yes, people sometimes do lose their email, or they're overwhelmed with email and can't find it again. So make sure it's in more than one location if you can. Direct students to mute their microphones when not speaking. This is an important thing. If you are the moderator, use your moderator tools to mute anyone who is not muted already. Otherwise, you wind up with a lot of feedback and noise, and that makes it harder for everyone to hear. So whoever is presenting needs to be the only one who has their mic active at the time. So, for example, Bluejeans Events automatically mutes everyone who comes into it except for the moderator. And that is why you have this lovely, clear audio of me rather than audio from 5 different people who are, madly drinking their 3rd cup of coffee or attempting to eat breakfast before they run off to do something else. Communicate clearly at the start how students should ask questions. So if it's a small group, you might just say, okay, everyone unmute when you have a question and, wave your hand on your webcam. If it's a larger group, you might want to say, please put your questions in chat. If it's something like Bluejeans Event, there will be a tool where they can raise their hand. That can sometimes be a little overwhelming to keep track of with a really large group. But if you have GSIs, then you might want to ask them to keep track of that and to flag you when someone has a question. But whatever you choose, which again should be what you are most comfortable with and what you can sustain, do make sure to communicate that to your students. If you can, try to pick one way and stick with it, because that will be the easiest thing for your students. And we do want to keep in mind, as much stress as we are all under right now, the students are also under a lot of stress. They are also having limited resources to deal with everything that's happening right now. So try to make it easy for yourself and try to make it easy for your students. Do also try to remember to hit record at the start of the session so that you have a record of what it is that happened during the lecture or the presentation or the discussion. Download your recording from either Bluejeans or Canvas conferences, both of which do record, as soon as it's processed. This is one thing to keep in mind with conferences in particular. Conferences only keeps recordings available for 14 days before purging them. So I really do recommend, as soon as you have a couple of minutes to spare, the day after, let's say, or the evening after, visit the conferences page again, get that link, download the video. At that point, you can upload it to, I would recommend, your Kaltura, your My Media account space, which will not take up your Canvas file space. And then you can share it with your class easily. But this only works if you remember to hit the record button at the start. Do also remember that while live video conferencing may feel like the closest thing to an in-person class, especially for lecture, you will not be able to see more than a few people at once while you are on a live video conference. And that can really impair your sense of how your students are doing. It can be a little difficult to get used to. So think about it now. Think about it ahead of time. Consider what you want to do. Do you want to break students up into smaller groups? Do you, not mind if you don't see them while you're lecturing? Do you want to have a Q&A of some kind later on in some other form? One of the easiest ways to do this that I would recommend is to have a Canvas discussion, or after the lecture, have a Canvas chat where people can talk and ask questions. If you are not broadcasting but recording lectures, also, you can put the video in a Canvas discussion. Students can watch the video, immediately ask any questions they have, and then you have a record of what questions they had. So, like I said, there are a lot of options. I know it can feel a little overwhelming right at this second. That's okay. Contact LTC. We are here to help you. We can talk you through it. It is also true that for most lecture, discussion, and assignment purposes, you may be better served with Canvas tools than with video conferencing, because that's also demanding on you, on your time, on your energy. So you might want to save video conference time for the really vital face-to-face discussions like office hours or like small group work or like the recitation or discussion sections. So just things to think about before we go. Do we have any questions?
We do. So the first one is, so Canvas conferences is you can do face-to-face like in Bluejeans? Really?
Okay, yes, indeed. Canvas Conferences does support face-to-face. It has two main layouts that are available to you. One focuses on the presentation. The other focuses on everybody's webcams. So yes, you will be able to do face-to-face using Canvas Conferences.
So with either one of these, how many people can be seen on the screen at the same time? Or is there a way that it switches back and forth so you can see who's talking?
That is an excellent question. There really, okay, so let me answer the easy one first. Using Bluejeans Meetings, you can see 9 people on the screen at the same time. Using Canvas Conferences, I believe it goes up to 12, at which point you're kind of looking at thumbnails. So that's the simple answer. Bluejeans does try to foreground whoever is speaking, but again, that depends on everybody who's not speaking immediately muting their mics and might take a little time to switch. Last I was aware, Canvas Conferences did not try to do that, but admittedly, it's been a little while since I did one live for teaching myself, so that might have changed. It would be a good thing to try to test maybe with your GSIs.
Last one, right now, is about students giving presentations, either PowerPoint or something else. What's the best tool for that?
Excellent question. And I would say the best tool, honestly, is Kaltura Capture. Let them record their presentation as a video. That will be the least stressful. Now, admittedly, if you're teaching a class on public presentation, then in that case, you want them to still have as much of the in-person experience as you can. And in that case, I would recommend conferences. But in most cases where students have a presentation, they have maybe slide materials, and they want to maybe also see the students' faces they're presenting, Kaltura Capture, very simple to use for making recordings. And that, again, will immediately upload the video straight into their My Media space in Canvas. It's very easy to share or to submit it as an assignment from there. I will be touching on My Media very briefly at the end, and we do have workshops on that also.
What if the presentation is an interactive presentation than doing Bluejeans or Canvas Conference? Is there a difference?
If this is an interactive presentation, and if that's an important part of it, then yes, I would recommend either Bluejeans or Canvas Conferences for that. Personally, I would find it easiest to use Canvas Conferences because of how many controls that gives the instructor for saying who you're going to promote to presenter at any given moment. But that's a personal preference. If you are familiar and more comfortable with Bluejeans Meeting, then go with Bluejeans Meeting.
So how do people ask questions if you can only see 9 people and they have their mics muted?
Excellent question. If you have a large group of people, having people ask questions in a live conference presentation, live video presentation, that's an issue. Yes, absolutely. One of the ways that you can do that is what we are doing right now, to say people put questions in chat and assign someone to watch the chat and flag you when people have questions. If it's a very small group, then you might tell people, unmute your mic if you have a question and say, I have a question. Again, as soon as you get more than 10 people, that becomes fairly difficult to manage. My favorite way to deal with it really is to say, okay, people, put your questions in the chat. And Bluejeans meetings and Canvas conferences both do have a session chat that everybody can see. So if the presenter is really comfortable with this and on the ball with doing the online presenting thing, sometimes you can keep track of the chat yourself and just glance aside every so often to say, okay, what are people saying? Because it's all on one screen. In events, that can be a little more overwhelming just because there's so many people. If there are a lot of questions, the chat goes very fast. In that case, I would definitely say assign someone to watch the chat. So there are a lot of options here. There are always tools for your viewers to communicate with you. It will vary a little bit from one platform to another, but not by too much. There will almost always be chat. There will usually be some option for the viewers to speak. Events, you have to, the moderator or your side moderator person has to enable that. In meetings and conferences, whoever is the presenter can say, okay, yeah, everybody talk, go. All right. Oh, right, and I went straight past that, okay. I skipped a slide. So you see, every now and then while you are doing the online thing, you have that bobble of, oh, wait, that's right, I should have advanced there. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Your viewers will look at that and say, oh, yeah, okay, I caught that. They were just talking about that. We're fine. All right. So now I am going to move on to the essentials of Canvas. And the most essential thing I think to let everybody know right away is that if you are teaching a course this term, you already have a Canvas course site. All right, that is already there and available for you. All you have to do is log in and edit it. Now, it is probably, if you have not touched it, currently in an unpublished state, not visible to students. So you have it there, but your students might not have seen it either. So it is there. It is waiting for you to log into Canvas. So now I am going to jump out of our presentation and open up a live demo of the Canvas site. So umish.instructure.com is where you can log in to Canvas, and if you can see up here in my URL bar at the top of the page, umish.instructure.com. That is where you go if you haven't touched Canvas at all previous to this. On your dashboard, you have all of your active courses, and of course, any courses that you've starred. If you're not used to Canvas, don't worry about that. You don't have to think about it. One of the things that you will want to make sure of is that your site is published. So I'm going to go into a demonstration course of mine, this little fundamentals of designing and teaching online courses. And if you look up here at the top right of the screen, you will see course status, unpublished. All right, that red button that says this is unpublished, this is invisible to students. And what you want to do is go to this gray publish button, click on that, give it a second to load because I'm sure this site is getting slammed right now. All right, come on. There we go. And now you will see course status green for published, and above that is the unpublished button if you need to conceal the course again. But this is really the first step that I recommend, is to publish that course. All right, now this home page, actually no, I will not jump into that quite yet. Let me just briefly touch on a couple other things that will be the case in pretty much any Canvas page that you're looking at. At the top right of anything, you will usually see a button or a plus sign. So at the top right here, you see plus module. That is add a new module. In this first getting started module, you will see a plus sign at the top right of the module itself. That means add a new item to this module. So when you need to add something, look for that plus sign. All right? Keeps things really, really simple. You can enable and disable things over here in the course menu on the left by going to settings. So if I scroll down to the bottom of my left-hand course menu, you will see settings. I will quickly click on that just to show you what the settings page looks like. And up at the top, you see a bunch of tabs. The first one you'll see is course details. That's what it will open on by default. This middle one is navigation. That is where you enable or disable things in your course nav. And enabling them usually means that they are visible to students. So if you look over at my course nav here, you'll see that there are a bunch of things with a crossed out I. That means students can't see it. Okay? Given, again, the stress that all of us are under, I would really recommend that you leave most things invisible to students, unless, of course, you've already done this and this is old hat and you know exactly what you're doing. But if you're starting out, this is the set that I would recommend that you want to enable announcements, modules, grades. If you're using them, enable conferences and chat, because those are easiest to find in the sidebar. If you're using Kaltura videos at all, enable My Media and Media Gallery, because then students will be able to get to their Kaltura account also, and they'll be able to see any videos you share to the Media Gallery. The UM Course Manager and Teaching Evaluations, I just leave up because those are tools that we might want to use. Below that, if you see when I'm scrolling down here, there are a ton of other things that you could feasibly decide to enable, but most of those you're not going to need for now. So for now, I would say keep it simple. Announcements, modules, grades. Those are the big ones, okay? Conferences and chat if you're using them, My Media and Media Gallery if you're using video. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the homepage. Honestly, I would recommend making your modules, which is what we see here, into your home page. On the home page, if you look over on the right side of the screen, you can see this second button, Choose Homepage. You have a couple different options for your course homepage. You can make it a content page. You can make it the stream of course activities, so if there's a new announcement, people always see it. But honestly, in this case, to make things easy to find and easy to see, I recommend modules. Canvas modules are the way that you can organize all of your course content. Modules let you package together in whatever way makes sense to you things like information pages, discussions, external links. If I scroll down here on my modules page, you will see Module 1 using an LMS. Okay? I have seen people organize this by a week per module to say, this week, here are the things that you need to do. Here is the link to the PDFs that you're reading. Here is the link to the quiz that you're going to need to do. Here is the link to, the online discussion that we're going to have over this. Whatever it is that you're including, modules lets you package things up into manageable bites. And I really do recommend that in this situation because it's going to be difficult for a lot of people who haven't necessarily been on Canvas much. Modules let you organize your entire course. And again, if I'm going to scroll up to the top here, the plus sign at the top of each module, I'm going to click on this quickly. This is how you add an item to the module. And you can see you can add an assignment, quiz, file, page, discussion, a text header, an external URL, an external tool. Don't worry about those too much, right? You can choose from things you've already created, or you can create something new right here in the Add This to the Module dialog. And again, these are things that we are so lucky. I cannot tell you how lucky we are that we are using Canvas right now because Canvas has the most amazing help guides. And this is something that I will bring up again at the very end. But the Canvas help guides, if you even just Google search for the Canvas guides, you get the instructor guide. It's very nice how-to documents, text and images. There are video guides for everything that you might need to do. And these are maintained by Instructure themselves, by the makers of Canvas. So if you feel like you're getting a little bit lost in anything that I'm doing or showing, don't worry about it. There are a lot of materials out there for you to come back and look at and think about at your own pace. So that said, I'm going to move us along. Canvas announcements is the next thing that I want to talk about. The announcements are the best way to communicate with your entire course all at one time and also have a record of what you said all in one place. So again, top right of the page, plus announcement, add a new announcement, and below that you can see the two announcements that I have set up in this particular course. So, welcome to day 2 of fundamentals. Let me click on this announcement. And here you see the announcement post. Now, one of the things I especially want to point out here is that the announcements by default have a reply button at the bottom of them. So if students have a question about the announcement that you're making, they can ask that question right there on the announcement itself, and you can answer it right there. It will be in one place, available for all of your students to see. And so ideally, hopefully, you will not have to constantly answer the same question over and over again, right? This is all in one place. You can direct students there if you've already answered a question. Announcements also do get echoed out to the student's email. So not only will it be in your course shell and available for comment there, they will get a copy of your announcements in their email. Now, this is for this reason I want to encourage people not to go wild with the announcements. Don't deluge your students with them. Think about, if you want to communicate with your students as a whole with updates, try to consolidate, okay? Maybe 1 or 2 announcements per week with all of the new information that you have gathered together. That said, if there's something that you need to tell them right now, if you need to say, oh my gosh, yes, sorry class, I made a mistake with the access settings on the quiz. I just changed that. Everyone can go and take their quiz right now. Yes, go ahead, make that announcement right that moment. All right. The next thing I want to note, and I'm going to go back to modules to show us this, is Canvas discussions. Scroll down to a good one here. All right, so here we go in Module 1, using an LMS. We have discussion, questions and help while building. And of course, this is because the assignment is to go build something in your group workspace. So you can see this starts with a prompt. And in this case, it's a fairly long prompt. And this says, okay, this is the discussion for questions that you may have. Don't forget that you can also answer people's questions here, directions on how to, take a screenshot, et cetera, some directions just in general for using threaded discussions, which tells them, look for the reply button down at the bottom. Anyone who hits the reply button down here immediately gets a version of what you will see everywhere in Canvas, the rich text editor. And this editor is where they can post a reply, they can reply by text, they can add a video that they take right there on the spot, they can add links, they can add images, they can add equations, they can add videos from My Media. The Canvas discussions is a really powerful tool. Think of it as a multimedia tool for class discussions. I'm going to cancel this. As students reply to the post and to each other, the replies do what we call threading. So let's say there are 3 students who reply to the top level prompt, and then one of them replies to somebody else's reply. That reply to the reply will be indented visually underneath the first one. And it will also, and how do I put this? For anyone who has any knowledge of screen readers, this is an ordered list, and so the nesting, the embedding, is indicated by the screen reader itself. So this is also a very accessible option. I'm very fond of Canvas discussions. They're very flexible. Now, if you have never had to write a discussion prompt before, you might want to check out the CRLT website because they have some really good resources for how to put together good discussion questions, and that translates. That absolutely translates. So any discussion question that you have used in class that has elicited really good discussion, use that. Use that as your Canvas discussion prompt, and that will almost certainly still elicit good discussion online. This is an excellent asynchronous tool. People can come to it whenever they have time. And if you leave it open for, say, an entire week, then the discussion sometimes just going. And it's really wonderful when you see that, when it gains momentum like that, because it's not just limited to the couple hours that we have for class. No, this can happen all week long. Give people time to think about it. Give people time to really develop their thoughts and evolve the discussion. This is one of the things that I really love about online discussions is that particular potential. Okay, I'm done proselytizing about that. It's just one of my favorite things.
There's a question around the student notification because students are able to turn their notification off, and I've already answered in the text box that we might recommend that the students change their notification. Can we get some information together of maybe text, tell students what to do that?
Absolutely.
Because you don't need to walk through the details of how to have them change it, but can we get that?
Yes.
Okay.
So the question was about the fact that it is true, Canvas gives students control of their own notifications. If they're feeling overwhelmed, sometimes they turn it off. So yes, there will absolutely be help materials. And in fact, on the Teaching Remotely website at LSA Tech Services, and yes, I will come back to that at the end, we do already have a page of student resources, and one of the resources on there is how do you Canvas, okay? And one of the recommendations that we do link people to in the instructional strategies page is how do you talk to your students about not turning off their notifications? So yes, there are materials, and we will try to pull more of those together.
There is also, in terms of thinking about how these components all work together, of making sure that there is something where people have to do one step before they move on to the next. And I know in Canvas that's a more complicated piece, but do we have any tutorials or information online already of how to say, for example, require students to watch this clip before they move on to the next step?
Yes, and that is prerequisites is what that's called, and you do that in modules. And so Canvas does have resources in the Canvas guides, Google the Canvas guides about modules and setting prerequisites. So there are materials available for that already, and we will be happy to help you figure that out. All right, now you can see that I've moved on to assignments here. Now, here's the thing that I want to highlight. You can see down in my course navigation, assignments has the crossed out I. Students cannot see this because in this situation, I don't necessarily want them going through the entire list of their assignments and freaking out. I want to package that up for them in modules, route them in the direction that I want them to go. But the assignments index page is for you to figure out, okay, I'm going to create some assignments. What do I want to do with them? Canvas assignments are extremely flexible. You want to use assignments for anything that students hand into you, whether it is graded or ungraded, whether it is, part of some other project. There are a lot of options in the settings. Again, I'm not going to get deep into those, but we do have workshops specifically on Canvas assignments to help you out. So homework, papers, video presentations, anything that you collect, you want to use Canvas assignments for that. Here in my little assignments index page, you can see also how you do weighting of assignments. And you know, if this is something that you're already doing, you probably already know how to do it, but I just want to point out the instructor view of the assignments index has my assignment groups, the discussions, the quizzes in practice, the project sub-assignments, things that scaffold up to the main one, the final project, and then one for all of my ungraded assignments, which I may give those point values so that I can indicate to the student, okay, you know, how thoroughly do I think you did this? It is worth in an assignment group 0% in the final grade. So I can provide points as part of my feedback, but still have it worth 0. You can see this is very flexible. If you do choose to let this be visible to your students, I do want to make sure people understand the student view of this page will look very different. Student view is always available for you to enter in settings if you ever want to see how a Canvas page looks different to your students, because it really, really does. A lot of these index pages will look different. A lot of the options will look different. The menu will look different. So the assignments index is one of the ones that looks most different between students and instructors. Okay, now that I've given you the background, let me open up one of our assignments. Let's say our first assignment, content creation. This is the one that the Q&A discussion was about. So here you see we have the description, which is fairly extensive, right? Getting ready to submit this assignment, instructions for submission, and then down at the bottom we see this is worth 15 points, and I have attached a rubric to it. Now, if you've never done this before, don't worry about all of those refinements. Don't worry about making it complicated. You can also just say, okay, normally I collect papers, by email, or maybe even I collect papers on paper. And now, well, that's gotten a lot more difficult. Now, maybe I want to collect papers via a Canvas assignment. All you have to do is, I'm going to go back to the assignments index here. All you have to do is go to the very top right, plus button, remember the plus button, plus assignment. Wait for it to load. Give it a name, describe what the assignment is, give it points, and then down here in submission type, say yes, online. And if you're used to receiving electronic files by email, I would say file upload. Just check file upload as your type of submission. And then students will be able to upload that electronic file here to assignments in Canvas. This may seem right up front more difficult than continuing to accept it by email. And if you are prepared to wade through your email to get those assignments, please feel free to keep doing it that way. You can create the assignment shell and only put the final grade in there using the assignment. You don't have to accept submissions this way if you're used to doing it another way and if you're sure that you still can. But I would say this is the best way to make sure that nobody's file gets lost, right? There's no, oh, it must have gone to your spam. There's no, oh gosh, did I maybe delete that email that somebody attached it to without thinking? Did I not realize they had an attachment? If it's in Canvas, then they either uploaded it or they didn't. And if they uploaded it, it will always be in Canvas. You will always be able to find it. This is probably the least breakable way to accept papers. Now, if you have accepted paper papers, then honestly, this is just one less step for your students, because rather than having them print it, tell them upload the file, right? Whether they write it in Word or Pages or whatever, tell them upload the file, and then I'm going to keep this, and I am going to open up something else because I want to show you SpeedGrader. For every assignment at the top right here, you see a link to SpeedGrader. That is the online grading interface. It will open up in a new tab. And it didn't like that. Oh, there are no active students, of course, right? I totally forgot about that. If I don't have students in it, SpeedGrader won't open yet. Okay, sorry. So I can't show you that live, but I can describe it to you. The SpeedGrader interface is an online browser-based way for you to view student submissions and mark them up. There are annotation tools. So if you leave marginal notes, you can insert marginal notes every third line. If you leave summary notes at the very end for your students, you can leave a summary comment, in their sidebar there. They will receive that also. If you highlight things and do the little caret to insert, you should have inserted this here. You can do that using SpeedGrader. So SpeedGrader is something that, as someone who was an English professor, initially I thought, oh gosh, I do so much writing on people's assignments. This will never work when I grade online. The first time that I graded online using an interface like this, I never looked back. Oh my gosh, it was a revelation. It was so amazing. I had no more paper cuts. I didn't have to take, the stacks of paper home. They would just always be right there in my browser. And I didn't get writer's cramp anymore because I could type my comments, right? So SpeedGrader interface, really, really wonderful invention. And for anything that is submitted in assignments, if it's a PowerPoint, you can mark it up in SpeedGrader. If it's a text document, you can mark it up in SpeedGrader. If it's a video, you can view it in SpeedGrader and add comments from there. So SpeedGrader, really wonderful. Any grade that you enter in it goes straight to the gradebook. So there's no need to take your final grade from the comments and put it into the gradebook. No, SpeedGrader does that for you. So Canvas assignments, very flexible. Anything that students hand in, you can do it here. Okay. Now you might have seen in those submission options, there were also things like make a recording on the spot or type, text entry. That gives them a text box they can type directly into. So if this is an off the cuff, I really want to collect people's muddiest point responses or a summary response so that I know they understood the lecture this week. Let me make an assignment, make it text entry. So they just type straight into the rich text editor. They save it and it appears in SpeedGrader for you to view it and read it, right? And in that case, none of the other students can read each other's work. If you want them to be able to see each other's responses, that's when you use a discussion. All right. Again, there is a workshop on assignments in particular that also touches on SpeedGrader if you want more detail. Now, yes.
So there is a question about in the variety of ways that people might submit assignments and homework and things like that, that the faculty member then gives feedback. Can those be returned, either Kaltura presentations or other types of assignments? Are they returned back through Canvas, or does that have to get emailed to the individual students directly?
Excellent question. Once you do all of your markup in SpeedGrader and hit save, hit save and then reveal in the gradebook, if you have chosen to mute grades until you're done, then yes, students immediately get that feedback and they can go to Canvas. The student view of an assignment at the top right, they will not see the SpeedGrader link. They will see either the submit button if they haven't submitted yet, or if they have submitted, the view your assignment and feedback button. So yes, that is returned to them through Canvas. You do not need to send it out separately. Another reason that it's nice to use SpeedGrader, because it's all in one place.
There also were some questions around when Canvas initially rolled out. People had problems with files that were submitted and they weren't easy to comment on through Canvas SpeedGrader. Has that been improved?
That is a very good question. I have only been here a year, so I was not here for the rollout. So I cannot directly address what problems people had at the time. I have found it to generally be the case that the commenting tools in SpeedGrader have been developed fairly steadily. So if there was a problem at the time, that may well have been solved. But if there was a specific problem that you know of, please do email LTC. Again, our contact information will be on the last slide. and we will be happy to work through that with you. If there is a consistent problem of some kind, then we can get with ITS, and ITS can get with Instructure themselves and say, okay, guys, please help us with this.
Right, we're getting lots of questions around Canvas conferences, and it seems that we should probably do a deeper dive, and maybe we'll post this session where it has a lot of intro things to Canvas as that intro to Canvas, and then we'll have some more sessions on the deeper dive. There was one question though of thinking about the Canvas conferences and scheduling those in advance for a particular date. And that might be something that we'll have to research and get more information on.
Yes, there are a bunch of tools available surrounding conferences, scheduling and invites and all of that. We don't have time to get into it right now. I only have 10 minutes left and I have to do quizzes. But yes, there is absolutely going to be a workshop forthcoming, and the Teaching Remotely web pages now has information on Canvas conferences, links to a whole bunch of other help documentation. So, workshop forthcoming. There are currently help materials. We will totally be on that with you. But I do want to touch on quizzes, because, of course, anybody who gives exams is concerned about the quizzes. So, here's the quizzes index page. Let me go to the Getting Started quiz here. So here we have, again, you have the description of the quiz at the top. I really do encourage people to fill in these descriptions, even if it's just with a couple lines of directions, because this is the only direction that students get before they dive in. Underneath this, for instructors, you see all of the settings. You can see that there are a bunch of settings. I want to just touch on a few things. Now, quizzes, first of all, supports all the common question types. So essay questions, multiple choice, numeric, fill in the blank, pretty much any common question type you're going to be able to create in a Canvas quiz. Now, the fun part is the handwritten, and we have specific workshops that address all the various deep dives on that. But pretty much any question type you will be able to enter. Many of them you can set a correct answer for, if there is a single correct answer. Not so much for the essay questions, but for the multiple choice, the true and false, the equations and fill in the blanks. You can set the correct answer or the partially correct answer, and they'll be automatically graded for you. This is one of the wonderful things about it. Quizzes also, and you can see down here in the settings, some of the access control features. So things like, you want to shuffle answers or not, so that different students get the questions in different order. Is there a time limit? You can set a time limit. Now, caveat on time limits, yes, this is one of the ways that you can discourage cheating, is give people less time to look up answers elsewhere. But again, students are going to be really stressed right now. So if you normally say, okay, you have 60 minutes to complete this, think about giving them a little more time than you normally would. Just because, again, people are going to have a lot of things on their mind. They're going to be really stressed out, and a countdown to the time limit is an extra source of stress.
A question around the quizzes of particularly people want to do some sort of timestamp, or is there some other way where people can upload a file and have some sort of quiz, or is there an assignment that you could have that as a written quiz that then they have to return it by a certain time?
Yes, and that would be, I would recommend using assignments for that rather than quizzes. Quizzes is made to show you the question on the screen. You answer the question on the screen right then. If you have, say, a Word doc of the quiz that you normally give on paper, make that an assignment, right? Give them the questions linked to that in the assignment description, and then let them download that, fill it out, upload it by a due date. And for the assignment, you can say close on the due date. Do not allow late uploads. Do not allow late submissions. So that's something, that is a use case where I would say use the assignment for it. Again, this is the kind of thing where you want to come to LTC, and we will talk this through with you. You might also want to stop first at the Teaching Remotely site because we do have a bunch of information about this on there. But again, we're getting down to our time limit here, so let me keep going. Okay, so I was just talking about the controls. Multiple attempts, are you going to allow them more than one try at this? In that case, which score do you want to keep? I usually say keep the highest score. Do they get to see their responses and review whether they got something right or not? Right? Letting them see their responses but not see the correct or incorrect answers can be a good way to eliminate arguments where students says, well, no, but I answered this the other way. If they get a view of their own responses, they can scroll down and say, oh, whoops, oh gosh, no, I didn't. I did answer it that way. Ha ha. Oops, okay, I guess I missed that question. So that's one that I actually do kind of encourage. View responses, but show correct answers. In this case, you can see after the last attempt, or you can just say no. Nope. Nobody gets to see their correct answers when they're reviewing this, not until I grade and finalize and release the grades to everybody, or possibly not even then. Do you want to show one question at a time, etc.? Now, require respond as lockdown browser. I know that it's going to be really tempting for a lot of people who do high stakes exams to want to enable lockdown browser. But I have to emphasize, a lockdown browser is designed for a moderated environment, for one that is proctored. The only thing that it prevents is people opening up another app or window or tab on the one computer that they're taking the test on. It does not stop people who are not proctored from pulling up their phones and looking up the answer there. It will stop them from copying and pasting, but that's all it really does. And it is an extra step, an extra tool, an extra little bit of complication. So honestly, what I would recommend in this particular situation that we are in right now is that you don't use lockdown browser. You just appeal directly to your students and say, look, we all know this is a hard time. I am relying on you to stand by your academic honor. I am relying on you to sustain the validity of everyone's test scores, including your own, right? We have a time limit. We do not have a lockdown browser, but I am relying on you to not cheat, even though we are all remote, right? And honestly, give your students some trust, and they will usually give it back to you. Yes, there will be some scattered instances of cheating. There's never really a way that we can get around that. However, we try. But in this particular instance, I really think that appealing directly to your students is going to be a stronger deterrent than adding the lockdown browser, which in this situation will not necessarily help all that much. Again, if you have questions about this, if you want to talk through it, bring it to LTC. We will be happy to help you. Yes, I know we are at time. One thing that I want to just touch on real quick here is the My Media, so that you know where to go to record a video. So I clicked on My Media, and I'm waiting for it to load. There we go. Up here at the top, the dark blue Add New button, if I click on that and I go down to Kaltura Capture, if I click on that, I have already downloaded this. So I just say, yes, open the Kaltura app. And we give this a second to load up. Here we go. Kaltura Capture is opening up. This, once you have downloaded the app once, the very first time, this is what you will see when you go to record a video. It is showing my webcam. It is showing my screen, and it is picking up my audio. All I have to do is hit the big red record button and go. So if you want to record a video, this is absolutely the way that I recommend going about that. And it's there for you. If you enable it, it's also there for students. Students can use it too. Once it's uploaded to your media, let me return to my media gallery. You can see that I have 2 videos here. I can put them anywhere in my Canvas shells. I can grab these videos, put them in a discussion prompt, put them in the course gallery, and they are available to my class. Okay, so now let us return briefly to our presentation. Resources. The workshops on details. I know this is an extremely long URL, but if you just go to the TTC website and honestly, again, just Google UMich TTC, that will pretty much get you to the workshop sessions. The tag for our sessions is teaching remotely, okay? And that is absolutely the place that you can go to find all the rest of our workshops. We are in the process of adding more as we speak. So if you don't see what you want quite yet, don't panic. They are coming. Consultations, if you want to contact LTC, here is where you email us, lsaissltc@umich.edu. If you need technical assistance with anything that you are doing, you can contact our technical help, lsait@umich.edu. And the last thing that I want to show people is, again, going to the web page. This is the Technology Services website, lsa.umich.edu/technology-services. Or you can just Google LSA Technology Services. If you want our teaching remotely pages, you can see down here this red button, remote resources. That takes you to the landing page for teaching remotely. And here we have teaching remotely, the very first item. You can also always go to the I need help with menu, and down here, teaching remotely. You click on that, that takes you to our teaching remotely landing page. There are a bunch of pages here for you to get some ideas, some help with. And as always, we have We're Here to Help, how to contact a bunch of different people for help with this. I know that this is all extremely stressful, especially for anyone who hasn't taught online before, but we are here to help you with this. We will get you through this. All right, any last questions? No? Then thank you very much for attending. Once again, please feel free to come to us if you have questions. We will do our best to help you out.